And when you invest in that cultivation, that development, during that stillness in the morning, it's like this sense, this sensitivity, this ability to see clearly in any situation that presents itself to you. You're back with another reflection on the daily Vedantic. I'm whispering. Why am I whispering? Well, maybe it's foreshadowing for what we're about to talk about. But if you clicked on the video or the episode title, you probably also know what we are going to talk about, since I'm pretty sure titles are always foreshadowing. Are they? Yeah, I think. Yeah. Wow, that kind of just blew my mind. Titles are always foreshadowing. Anyhow, let's get right into why I was whispering. Have you ever seen those videos of, I brought this up before and I love these videos, where you have a child or like a young baby that's given a hearing aid. And the doctor flips it on and it's with the parents. And the baby discovers a sense, a natural part about them to sense sound that they didn't even know they had. These are always such moving videos. Why so many of them go viral, because the child, or one recently that I saw was maybe 18-month-old, goes from surprise to delight and a smile to then this overwhelming flood of tears. Overwhelmed emotionally by this missing piece of the world that they were created to incorporate in the way that they perceive the world. This missing piece now just clicking right into place. The secret key of this philosophy is waking up before the sun comes up. To study and reflect, maybe even 15 minutes, if that's all you can muster, but waking up and starting your day before the sun is up, to reflect on timeless wisdom before jumping into a million texts or emails, social media, before the sun is up and the world is pulling you extrovertedly out to perform, to achieve, to deliver, to get. And before all of that, secret key of this philosophy is how an anchor of our development towards mastering life, mastering ourselves, an anchor is starting every day with morning study and reflection. I'm going to dissect exactly what I mean by that, specifically between the hours of 4 to 6 a.m. Brahma Mahortram is what the Sanskrit word is for this really divine time, the stillness in the air that you don't find any other point in the day. You certainly don't find at 10 a.m. You don't find in traffic. You don't find when you're exhausted at 6 p.m., at 11 p.m., 3 drinks in after a late dinner, at midnight. That is not the stillness of body, mind, intellect, of the world around us that you find between 4 or 6 a.m. You don't need to spend all 2 hours. Like I said, it could start with 15 minutes. But it's before the sun comes up and the world starts to pull you out of yourself. That quietness, that stillness is surreal. Even if you just try it once. Everyone has the taste for it. Even if you think you are the biggest night owl out there. I thought I was the biggest night owl in the world. I didn't take a college class before 11 a.m. and that was only once that I even had one before noon at 11 a.m. I refused to because I thought I was such a night owl. And yet, if you ask me my favorite part of the day, it is that morning study before the rest of the house, the rest of the world is up. My wife is up. Cheney and I both wake up, prioritize our study and reflection. And it has to be not only in the morning, but it has to be daily because this philosophy is just as explicit when it says that if all of these principles in this series, this project of the Daily Vedantic, if all of these principles and concepts are around the solution or knowledge, understanding of ourselves, what is the problem? Beneath all of the problem that requires solutions, requires mastery. The problem is attachment. Selfish desire and selfish attachment. To name, fame, power, achievement, wealth, attachment to your home, your car, career milestones, tying all of your self-worth into, I gotta get here, I have to achieve this, or else I'm nothing. People need to think of me as that, or else I am nothing. That attachment is the root problem of all of our suffering. That attachment is the root problem to all of our suffering, and there is no cure. In this terrestrial world in which we live in, the relative sense, there is no cure. In the absolute sense, there is a cure. There is self-realization. There is enlightenment. There is moksha, nirvana, union with the divine, heaven. You can use all of these different words for it to symbolize that place where there is no suffering. That state, I should say, because it is no geographical place. That state where there is no suffering. But in the relative world, the world we are all in, there is immense suffering, and the root of all of it is attachment. And there is no cure in this world for attachment. There is only, it is like a virus. It is like a virus where there is no cure. There is only a daily inoculation through study and reflection. Like touching electricity, you touch a grounding wire to get rid of all of the excess electricity, static energy that might be going through you, or excess electricity within an electrical unit. There's a grounding wire to release that. This study and reflection each morning, that is the grounding wire. Instead of an accumulation of agitation, day in, day out, commercials and advertisements and conversations with friends that just accumulate attachments and desires, that is your daily grounding wire to eliminate them, to decrease them, slowly but surely, methodically decrease them. And there is no cure for this virus that you can catch so easily. You're at lunch with a friend and they tell you about a career milestone they just hit, and you say, oh shit, I'm happy for you. And then you're thinking in your head, I want that. I should get that. That should have been me. I'm behind. That is you contracting the virus of attachment. That's me contracting the virus of attachment when I have those experiences. To undo it, to protect yourself from it, to inoculate yourself from it, it is the daily study and reflection. And it's not just study. It's not just reading something profound or deep or something meaningful to you. It's reflecting on it. As is said within this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times more powerful than listening. Said that because this philosophy predates the written word, so it was always heard before it was ever read or written down. So you listen to a master speak, but reflection on what you listen to, that was 100,000 times more powerful than just listening to it. And we all know that. You come across something profound on Instagram and it stops you in your tracks. Maybe you give it a like. You read it, and it's as quickly gone as it was received. 2 days later, it's like it never happened. But if you write it down, you reflect on it for a few days in a row, it starts to make it a real imprint in our lives. Listening, reading is nothing without reflection. And that reflection, the 3 best ways to reflect, according to Vedanta. The best ways to reflect. One is, isolatedly, alone. That is a great way of reflecting. That is, especially between the hours of 4 and 6. Thinking about it. That's what we think about when we think of reflection in the West is, okay, isolated, quietly thinking. But a better form of reflection is writing. Quiet place, 5:30 a.m., reading something, maybe one line. As is said within this philosophy, if you can understand just one verse of the Gita, you're instantly realized. So take a line of the Gita that hits you. Write it down. Swami Parthasarathi, all of the resources in the show notes. This whole project is really just an on-ramp to his work. Vedanta Treatise, this book, is the whole philosophy, soup to nuts, beginning to end, a compendium of this timeless wisdom in terms of continuous study, the oldest philosophy in the world. You can get it all in that book, written in plain English. It's beautifully, meticulously written over 23 years, I think. And also written between the hours of 4 to 6 a.m. Not a single word is written outside of the hours of 4 to 6 a.m. That's why it took 23 years. But within this philosophy, within that one verse, and Swami will say, if you can understand one word of the Gita, you're instantly realized. Within that reflection of that one word, you can write it out. Write out the reflection. Write out in your own words, what it means. That is a better form of reflection than just thinking. But the best form of reflection is actually outside of those hours, once you've done your own personal reflection. Best form of reflection, whenever the word reflection comes up, I always try to find a way to articulate this brilliant concept of the highest form of reflection, according to this philosophy, is actually in discussion with a community of people pursuing the same truth. Finding that community. And you could be DMing me if you want. On Instagram, people DM all the time. I'm so happy to answer questions on there. So I can send voice notes back. It's beautiful. So you can send me any and all questions that you have. Because that questioning, taking something from what can sometimes be a sterile text, putting it in your own words, writing it out, then having your own questions about it, and expressing those questions to a community in truth, pursuing the same truths, then needing to maybe articulate that to a community of truth. That discussion is the highest form of reflection. And it obviously oftentimes can't be between the hours of 4 to 6 a.m. It's a discussion that might take place later in the day after those first 2 forms of reflection. But the secret key is to study and reflect the first thing in the morning. You might wake up, brush your teeth, get a cup of water, maybe even make a coffee, but then sitting down, utilizing that beautiful stillness to start each day. And it goes from something that might sound so foreign to you to becoming a best friend, that you travel and you can't do it and you miss it like you miss your best friend. Like discipline doesn't even enter the equation when I think about that time in the morning. It's not like a discipline to wake up that early. It's like a decision to enter the spa, a decision or a discipline to hang out with your best friend. It's just so self-gratifying. And the rest of the day takes on a shape that you would expect from a day where you started with that grounding wire and timeless wisdom. And as you invest in those beautiful hours of 4 to 6, Swami will often say, nothing matters outside of what you do the hours between 4 and 6, because almost hyperbolically, metaphorically, nothing matters, because if you do that, then the rest of your life takes care of itself. It's that profound. And why? Why is that? Well, it is the intellect that you're developing during those hours of 4 to 6. Maybe it's just 5:45 to 6 for you in the beginning of trying this out. You're developing your intellect, and the intellect is, as defined by this philosophy, the capacity to see the end in the beginning. In any pursuit or scenario in life, the capacity to see the end in the beginning. That is what you're doing during that stillness. You're developing that capacity. That capacity, that vision, that clarity, that is like a sixth sense. Something we've talked about on this podcast before. It is like a sixth sense that you are wired with, that is dormant within you, that every part of your being is oriented around. And when you invest in that cultivation, that development, during that stillness in the morning, it's like this sense, this sensitivity, this ability to see clearly in any situation that presents itself to you. It's like that sense just switches on. It's like the baby with the doctor flipping the switch on the hearing aid. The baby realizing this has been the missing piece to experiencing the world. And similarly, the intellect, when you cultivate and develop the intellect and it switches on and it takes the driver's seat in any scenario you find yourself in, it is like the missing piece to experiencing life. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We will see you next time.